Facial recognition technology, once confined to the realm of science fiction, has stealthily infiltrated our daily lives, raising profound concerns about privacy, civil liberties, and the frightening erosion of our personal freedoms. In a world where convenience often trumps caution, the pervasive nature of facial recognition poses a menacing threat to our individual autonomy. It's imperative to unveil the unsettling truth behind the growing influence of this technology. Invasive and insidious facial recognition systems quietly watch our every move, capturing our likenesses in a vast database without our consent. These digital replicas, devoid of our control, are often used to track and monitor us for purposes far beyond our understanding. The technology's rapid proliferation has engendered a nightmarish reality, where anonymity is a rarity. Whether in public spaces or online, our faces are constantly under the scrutinizing gaze of AI, subject to unwarranted surveillance. Our faces, once symbols of identity and emotion, have become mere data points in the eyes of facial recognition algorithms, which tirelessly analyze our features with astonishing precision. These AI systems, endowed with machine learning capabilities, are ever watchful, identifying us with speed and accuracy that surpasses human capability. What's truly chilling is the unchecked power wielded by both governmental entities and corporations employing facial recognition technology. Privacy invasion is a mere byproduct of their relentless surveillance, with the potential for abuse lurking in the shadows. Governments across the globe have readily embraced facial recognition to keep tabs on their citizens, purportedly for security reasons. Yet, this technology's deployment often leads to the compromising of civil liberties, casting a long, dark shadow over our rights to anonymity and freedom of movement. As surveillance cameras equipped with facial recognition technology become increasingly omnipresent, our daily lives are transformed into an eerie Orwellian dystopia, where the omniscient digital eye is always upon us, recording our whereabouts, preferences, and relationships. In the corporate sphere, companies eagerly adopt facial recognition for profit, building a treasure trove of data on consumers. This blatant monetization of our identities disregards our fundamental right to privacy, as corporations exploit our personal information for targeted marketing, often without our informed consent. Unregulated and unaccountable, facial recognition systems are primed to exacerbate societal inequalities. They have been shown to exhibit alarming biases, misidentifying people of color and women at disproportionately high rates. This discriminatory aspect deepens the fractures within society, perpetuating racial and gender disparities. The irreversible breach of trust between individuals and institutions becomes evident as we increasingly discover that we are under constant surveillance. This breach jeopardizes the very foundation of trust that underpins our democratic societies, as well as the principles of personal freedom that many have fought for. The notion of personal privacy becomes an antiquated concept when one realizes that facial recognition technology can track us wherever we go, whether it's through public spaces, airports, or even in our own homes through connected devices. This unrestricted monitoring reveals the horrifying omnipresence of surveillance that has permeated our lives. Facial recognition technology, while marketed as a tool for convenience and security, has, in reality, evolved into a tool of mass surveillance. It blurs the lines between individual choice and institutional control, tipping the balance in favor of the latter. Our faces, once an intrinsic part of our identities, have been co-opted and commercialized by technology companies who leverage our biometric data for profit. The use of facial recognition for unlocking smartphones, accessing bank accounts, or entering buildings highlights the vulnerability of our personal information, as it becomes a commodity ripe for exploitation. These companies, driven by profit motives, are often unwilling to disclose how they store, protect, or share our facial data. The lack of transparency surrounding the handling of this sensitive information only exacerbates the erosion of our privacy. The reality is that, in this age of facial recognition, the concept of a personal space is almost obsolete. Our faces are scanned, stored, and analyzed by a technology that is growing increasingly powerful, all while we relinquish control over our own identities. Facial recognition's misuse is not a matter of if, but when. The database of faces becomes a potent tool for law enforcement and intelligence agencies, enabling them to conduct surveillance on citizens with minimal oversight. The potential for abuse is a dark undercurrent that threatens to engulf our rights. It's not just the prying eyes of authorities that we should fear. Hackers and cybercriminals lurk in the digital shadows, poised to exploit the vulnerabilities of facial recognition databases, leaving us even more exposed to identity theft and fraud. We find ourselves ensnared in a web of surveillance, with our faces perpetually under the watchful eye of AI. As technology advances, the line between reality and dystopian fiction blurs, and the sense of foreboding deepens. As we reluctantly trade our personal information for the semblance of convenience, we must confront the fact that our identities have been commodified. The transformation of our faces into data disrupts the very essence of what it means to be human, as our individuality is overshadowed by algorithms and profit margins. The growth of facial recognition technology has forged a reality where we are constantly evaluated, scrutinized, and profiled. Our behavior is not merely observed, but also quantified, analyzed, and stored for future reference, undermining our autonomy and forcing us into an unsettling conformity. Despite widespread public concern, the development and deployment of facial recognition systems continue at an alarming pace. This unrelenting march toward total surveillance challenges our ability to protect our personal information and uphold our basic rights. The erosion of privacy is not a minor inconvenience. It is a calculated assault on our personal freedoms. The right to move through the world without being tracked and monitored is a cornerstone of democratic society, and yet it is a right that is rapidly slipping through our fingers. The consequences of this unchecked proliferation of facial recognition are far-reaching and dire. It strikes at the heart of democracy, threatening our ability to dissent, organize, and exercise our rights without fear of retribution. While proponents argue that facial recognition technology can enhance security, we must consider the cost, a loss of freedom, privacy, and autonomy. We live in a world where our faces have become commodities to be traded and profited from, rather than expressions of our unique selves. Facial recognition transforms our daily lives into a dystopian scenario where the boundaries between public and private spaces blur, creating a sense of constant surveillance that invades our personal sanctuary. This is a nightmare scenario in which our faces betray us, often without our knowledge or consent. The chilling truth is that, in the face of facial recognition, we are rendered powerless, stripped of our ability to protect our identities. This loss of control is a grave injustice that, if left unchecked, will define our generation's legacy. As we confront the insidious and invasive nature of facial recognition technology, we must ask ourselves whether the convenience it offers is worth the cost of our personal freedom and privacy. The choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow, and we must decide whether we are willing to accept a future under the watchful eye of AI. The dystopian reality where our every move, expression, and interaction are monitored and recorded by facial recognition technology is not a distant possibility. It is a creeping nightmare that we are currently living through. The frightening truth is that facial recognition's influence reaches far beyond our streets and public spaces. It infiltrates our digital lives, perpetuating a surveillance culture that encroaches on our online privacy. It's as if the walls of our digital sanctuaries have eyes that never blink. The question remains, who benefits from this unbridled surveillance? It's not the average citizen, but rather the governments and corporations that wield this technology as a tool for control and profit. We are mere pawns in a larger game where our faces are the currency. We are at a crossroads, faced with a choice: to accept a world where our identities are stripped away and commodified, or to stand up and reclaim our right to privacy and personal autonomy. The path we choose will determine whether we live under the oppressive shadow of the watchful AI, or in a world that respects individuality and freedom. In the end, the scary truth behind facial recognition is that it threatens to reshape the very fabric of our society. The erosion of our privacy, the loss of our autonomy, and the perpetuation of discrimination are the price we pay for the convenience it offers. It is a threat to our humanity that we cannot afford to ignore. As we continue to grapple with the implications of facial recognition technology, it is crucial to demand transparency, accountability, and comprehensive regulation. The power to decide whether we live in a world where our faces are commodities or expressions of our individuality rests with us, the watchful public eye that must never close.